Everyone thought Han Sen was about to lose. However, when that arrow approached Han Sen pulled the string when he completely lost his balance. The arrow in Han Sen's hand did not go out. Han Sen held the tail of the arrow and used its head to hit Jing Jiwoo's arrow. This way, Han Sen was using the weight of his body to move the incoming arrow, which was knocked away, and Han Sen himself down to the ground. At this time, the first of the 3 arrows shot by Han Sen collided with Jing Jiwoo's second arrow, while Han Sen's other 2 arrows flew toward Jing Jiwoo. Now Han Sen's arrow was shot from 11.0 bow, so it was even more likely that it would be bounced off. However, Han Sen's arrow suddenly became alive and moved half an inch away from Jing Jiwoo's arrowhead. Like a snake, it dove under Jing Jiwoo's arrow and ended up on Jing Jiwoo's chest. Looking down, Jing Jiwoo was dumbstruck. Qin Cheng was speechless, so was Wen Zixu, Sidu Jiang, every team member from the Alliance Central Military Academy, and Black Hawk Military Academy, and all the viewers. Although everyone saw what had happened, they could not believe that Jing Jiwoo would be hit like this. Jai Yanran and Kalili were cheering and jumping like a couple of maniacs. Jing Jiwoo is out, muttered Qi Jiken. I believe so. Zhang Yang wasn't so sure about it. No one in the Black Hawk team believed it had actually happened. They could not trust their own eyes. The monster, the invincible monster, who had ruled the Military Academy League for 3 years, was hit like this. Alliance Central Military Academy. Jing Jiwoo, out. Archer, Black Hawk, Han Sen. When the voice of the AI ran in the field, everyone came back to themselves. Qi Jiken hugged Lu Meng, shouting and turning around. We won. Zhu Tianhao was still sitting there. Surprise and joy filled his eyes. Zhang Yang threw away the towel in his hands and jumped over the fence, rushing over to Han Sen, and the other teammates followed him to Han Sen's side. Jing Jiwoo lost. What's that arrow made of? Did I see it right? It dodged Jing Jiwoo's arrow itself. An era has ended. The monster just lost. Unbelievable. Wen Zixu felt that her blood was almost boiling and her voice changing. Disregarding that, she shouted at the top of her lungs, miracle. Black Hawk made a miracle. Han Sen created a miracle. The monster Jing Jiwoo fell under the miraculous shot. Our new emperor has crowned himself with an arrow. On the rooftop, 3 young men were looking at the night view of the city, leaning over the railings. How do you feel about the failure? Tang Zhenliu drank some beer and asked Jing Jiwoo next to him with a smile. Not bad. That Han Sen was beyond my expectation. I did lose. Jing Jiwoo smiled. So, what happened with the last shot? Tang Zhenliu couldn't help but ask. The arrow was spinning, Jing Jiwoo said casually. What do you mean by the arrow was spinning? Tang Zhenliu paused and did not understand Jing Jiwoo. The arrow was shot from a bow instead of thrown by hand. Unless the arrow was special, it was impossible that the arrow would spin. In the tournament, all the arrows were ordinary arrows provided by the sponsor, so the arrow itself could not spin either. I don't know, replied Jing Jiwoo. How is it that you don't know? Tang Zhenliu looked at Jing Jiwoo in surprise. Jing Jiwoo was facing that arrow. With his skills, he would definitely know if the arrow was altered. Lin Feng cut in. Indeed, he does not know. There are ways to shoot a spinning arrow like that, using the flow of the air to make the arrow shift its direction. However, none of them could be realized by the unevolved. Interesting guy. Unfortunately, this is already my last year and I will never have a chance to fight him again. Jing Jiwoo threw the empty bottle into the trash can and walked to the staircase. Bye guys, I hope to see you again. What plan do you have now? Asked Lin Feng. Originally, I wanted to go to the battlefield after the tournament. Now that is not necessary anymore. I will leave tonight, said Jing Jiwoo without turning his head. I will wait for you, Lin Feng said, watching Jing Jiwoo leaving. Jing Jiwoo paused, turned back and smiled. You haven't fought him either, right? You mean Han Sen? Lin Feng paused and understood. Jing Jiwoo smiled and walked away. What does he mean? Tang Zhenliu felt puzzled. He meant that if he did not beat Han Sen, I probably could not either, said Lin Feng casually. Hearing this answer, Tang Zhenliu couldn't even hide his surprise. The spinning arrow was a creation by Han Sen using the reference of the Beetle Knight's spinning spear and the theory of yin-yang blast. During the 3 months when Han Sen fought the Beetle Knight, he learned nothing other than this skill, which led to his victory in the duel against Jing Jiwoo. Even so, he was very lucky to win. If he were to do it again, Han Sen was not sure if he could still beat Jing Jiwoo. The championship of Black Hawk was the one and only miracle. The sky was blue and the beach was warm. A beauty with skin as fair as milk, long legs and beautiful curves were dipping in the water wearing nothing but bikini. Lying under the beach umbrella, Han Sen could not move his eyes away from Jai Yanran in bikini. Life is good. Watching Jai Yanran's alluring figure, Han Sen felt that God loved him. Jai Yanran really kept her promise and took him on a vacation, which was beyond Han Sen's expectation. Jai Yanran even took care of asking for leave from school. I'm such a charming guy. Han Sen took off his sunglasses and looked at his own reflection in the lens, appreciating his handsome look. Why don't you go swimming? Jai Yanran returned to the beachside and asked Han Sen. Harry pulled her into his own arms, held her tiny waist, and whispered into her ear, we have 4 days and 3 nights, for which I need to save some energy. Jai Yanran suddenly blushed and pinched Han Sen's waist. While Han-sen was complaining, she ran away to another chair. Why is no one here? You didn't rent the entire beach, did you? Harry looked around and was curious why he never saw other tourists here. When have you ever heard such a thing as renting a beach? Jai Yanran rolled her eyes and said, this is a private beach, so of course there is no one here. You on the beach? Han-sen was surprised. I don't. Jai Yanran grinned and said, but this planet belongs to my uncle. Han-sen choked on the water he just drank. He knew that Jai Yanran was from a rich family, but did not imagine they would be so rich. Wonderful. As long as I'm with you, I would not need to work ever, Han-sen smiled and said. You wish. In my family, only sons can inherit family businesses. Now I can still use the family resources, but when I am married, it's all up to you. Jai Yanran curled her lips and said, you have such a strong desire to marry me. I haven't even decided if I want to do that yet. Han-sen pretended to be surprised by her. Jai Yanran suddenly became angry from embarrassment and threw herself at Han-sen. Suddenly, with the sound of a whistle, Han-sen saw an ancient yacht sailing over. Han-sen had only seen such a thing in movies. Jai Yanran immediately stood up from Han-sen's arms. As the yacht came into the pier, a young man of about 25 years old came down with a few bodyguards and walked towards the couple. Smiling, the young man waved to Jai Yanran from afar. Jai Yanran, it's been a while since you visited us. Brother, I'm a military school student now and don't have too much time. Jai Yanran introduced Han-sen to the young man. This is my schoolmate Han-sen. Han-sen, this is my brother Jai Lingfeng. Brother, Han-sen called Jai Lingfeng directly. Jai Yanran blushed. Jai Lingfeng paused and smiled. Han-sen, are you the one who beat Jing Jiwoo in the archery tournament? Yes, that's me, said Han-sen casually. So impressive. No wonder Jai Yanran would bring you back. Jai Lingfeng cast a glance at his sister. Jai Yanran blushed and pouted. Brother, did you come to pick us up or did you come to chat? We'll talk on the ship then. Jai Lingfeng took the couple on board, and then the yacht sailed away into the ocean. Han-sen, do you know any drinking games? Jai Lingfeng sat down in the lounge and put 2 bottles of wine in front of Han-sen. Some, Han-sen said with a smile. When he got back to Blackhawk, Han-sen entered God's sanctuary and started to attend to the business of the special squad. The Cloud Beast still needed more than a month to evolve into a sacred blood creature. Han-sen planned to use the time to hunt a few mutant creatures. The best place to hunt mutant creatures was Dark Swamp, but the mutant creatures there were too large. Devil Desert also had plenty of mutant creatures, but they often showed up in groups, which was troublesome. After some thoughts, Han-sen decided to try his luck in the Jade Dragon Mountains. Before he became the head of the special squad, Han-sen only knew the names of some mountains nearby, but had no idea about the specifics. After he became the head, Han-sen read many useful insider materials, a lot of which were about the Jade Dragon Mountains. Although the Jade Dragon Mountains were discovered a long time ago, no one really dared to go hunting there. Even the 3 big gangs in the shelter did not dare to hunt creatures in the Jade Dragon Mountains. The main reason was the abundance of advanced creatures in the Jade Dragon Mountains. Han-sen heard that the Bloody Slayer also came from there. According to the materials he read in the accounts of those who had been there, several sacred blood creatures would appear together on the edge of the Jade Dragon Mountains. Most people who had been there had died, and the few who had made it back did not dare to go there again. It was beyond the question of ability. Where there were too many sacred blood creatures, a large group would not even be useful. The survivors had described a 300 feet long gigantic serpentine, a bird as large as a piece of dark cloud, and a giant beast like a hill, among others. What impressed Han-sen the most was that the survivors did not see any ordinary or primitive creatures. The least advanced creatures there were mutant ones. Although it was risky, Han-sen had a sacred blood color shifter beast soul, which could help him sneak in and seek opportunities. As for his scent, Han-sen uses 1 point of his special squad credits and purchased a bottle of vegetation water, which was a tried and true solution to cover up the scent of mankind. At the fringe of the Jade Dragon Mountains, Han-sen became extra careful. He took Meowth away and sprayed the vegetation water all over himself. Wearing his sacred blood armor, Han-sen walked toward the mountains. Although he had wings, Han-sen did not dare to fly around. A sacred blood flying beast soul was fast, but it fell short to a flying sacred blood creature. It would be a suicidal move if Han-sen decided to fly. Traveling for a long while, he eventually saw a creature, which was as big as a mammo beast. Just listening to its hoofbeat, Han-sen could feel the earth was shaking. Although he did not know whether the creature was sacred blood or mutant, Han-sen had lost his interest in it just by looking at its size. As the creature ran around in the Jade Dragon Mountains, Han-sen followed it at a distance. With such a large creature in the front, all sorts of other creatures would be alarmed. This way, Han-sen could reduce his risks significantly. After following the creature for a couple of hours, Han-sen did not run into any trouble. Indeed, the creatures in the Jade Dragon Mountains were advanced, but there were fewer creatures here than in other places. Han-sen started to think whether or not he should continue to follow this creature. It was a safe way, but he did not run into any mutant creatures. He wondered whether it was because there were none, or because they were scared away by this giant. As Hansen was hesitating, he suddenly heard a scream. A huge creature running in front of him was suddenly bit in the neck and dragged away by a creature that looked like a golden lion. The giant body of the huge creature was barely any larger than the head of the lion-like creature. The lion chewed a little and swallowed it down. Hansen was covered in cold sweats. The golden lion was as big as a mountain. In front of the golden lion, Hansen was not much better than an ant. Even the golden rockworm king in its largest shape was merely a pet to the lion. Shocked, Hansen was ready to retreat. As he turned around, he felt a chill and almost let out a scream. On the path where he came from, thousands of giant beasts that looked like the one eaten by the lion were running toward them. Their hoofbeat was almost like thunder, making the entire valley tremble. Hansen was distracted by the golden lion swallowing the beast he was following, and did not notice when the entire herd had got here. The herd was just 2 or 3 miles from Hansen. Hansen gritted his teeth and summoned the color shifter, planning to hide on a mountain wall. If he did not move too fast, no creature could notice him. When Hansen was about to climb, he noticed dark clouds were covering the sky. With a closer look, the dark clouds were actually formed by large black birds, each with a wingspan of 20 feet. Flocks of the birds occupied the peaks of the mountains, their red eyes staring at what was happening underneath. Birds have the best eyesight among all creatures. If Hansen stayed still, the color shifter might be able to fool them. However, if he started to climb, there would be certain gaps which would expose him. Hansen felt bitterly disappointed and cursed. Who the F-K said there were few creatures here. They're all acting in groups. Hansen was running out of time. The herd of beasts were about to arrive, and on the bare mountain walls he had nowhere to hide. Even if he stood clinging to the mountain wall, he was not sure if he could survive the jostling of so many beasts. He did not dare to climb up either with all the birds watching. Suddenly, Hansen ran toward the golden lion. Although the golden lion was obviously 1,000 times stronger than the herd and flock, it was also so large that Hansen was merely a bug in its eyes. When using the color shifter, the golden lion would not necessarily notice Hansen. Instead of risking it climbing the mountain wall, Hansen decided to try his luck with the golden lion. The birds would not dare to approach the lion, so he could just hide in its fur and try to run away when there was a chance. He tried to move toward the golden lion, which did not notice him. However, the birds on the mountains nearby were flapping their wings and squeaking. Obviously, they had seen him. Many birds were diving to grab him. Hansen just prayed that the golden lion would not take him seriously. Maybe his prayers had worked. The golden lion did not notice Hansen at all, but was distracted by the birds after him. The lion waved its paw and smashed one of the birds, which became a snack. The other birds flew away screeching, and no longer dared to chase Hansen, who was next to the hind leg of the golden lion. The hind leg was a hill for Hansen, and each golden hair as thick as Hansen's arm. Hansen quickly grabbed the hair and climbed up. He did not dare to leave the lion, as all the birds were watching him. Once he left, they would probably attack him again. The herd of the beasts were about to rush over, and Hansen had to make it to the golden lion's back in order to survive. Luckily, Hansen was too small for the golden lion to notice him. The angry herd of beasts were in the face of the golden lion and started their attack. However, it was like using an egg to hit a stone. It could not even be called an attack. The herd were simply suicidal. The golden lion could kill several of them with one swipe. Sometimes it even threw a beast into its mouth. Momentarily, the valley had become a blood river, and the carcasses had piled up. The golden lion did not even take the thousands of beasts seriously. In its eyes, they were merely a dinner. The herd kept charging, which was a futile effort. The golden lion fed as it wished, and thousands of beasts all died within half an hour. After eating some of the meat itself, the golden lion lost interest in the carcasses and went deeper into the mountains. The flocks of blackbirds then made a dive, throwing themselves at the remains of the beasts. Sitting on the back of the golden lion, Hansen was quite upset. He thought he would eventually have an opportunity to leave the lion, but it turned out he was being naive. The golden lion was enormous and had an incredible speed. The flocks of birds were following the golden lion everywhere, treating it like a stable food source. The leftover meat of the lion's meal would always go into the bird's belly. What troubled Hansen was that the birds were all mutant creatures. With their size and strength, thousands of them together were quite scary. What was worse was that, among them there were 2 bird kings that had a wingspan of over 50 feet. Hansen was positive that they were sacred blood creatures. They were very similar to the silver bird that almost killed him, and there were a pair of them. Hansen did not know what to do. He was trapped on this enormous lion. The birds did not dare to approach the lion, while he did not dare to leave the lion, which was a dilemma. The silver lining was that when the golden lion was feeding, he could use a string-attached arrow to drag some meat over, which was all mutant meat. After a few days, his mutant geno points had increased a few. Several days later, the golden lion was deep in the Jade Dragon Mountains. Although it did not travel all the time, it was incredibly fast. Hansen was not sure where he was. Around him were the same black mountains. Fortunately, the golden lion did not change its direction, so Hansen knew how to go out. However, on his way here, he had seen numerous horrifying creatures wandering around in the mountains. Following the golden lion, he could keep himself safe, since no creatures could beat the lion. However, when he thought about going out, Hansen did not have a solution. I should have definitely remained humble. Hansen regretted so much that his pride drove him to Jade Dragon Mountains. It turned out God's sanctuary was way more dangerous than he had thought. He had believed that based on his capability, he could go anywhere he wanted within First God's sanctuary. However, after entering Jade Dragon Mountains, he found out how wrong he was. Hansen was trapped on the lion for more than a month and did not have any chance to run away. The birds were like minions, following the golden lion everywhere. The golden lion had left the Jade Dragon Mountains and entered a plain following a wide river. Hansen wondered where it was going. In more than a month, Hansen had seen countless frightening creatures torn into pieces by the golden lion. One time, he used a threaded arrow to draw back a piece of meat from a giant snake and heard the voice saying 1 sacred geno point gained, which was shocking to him. It turned out that some of the prey of the golden lion were sacred blood creatures. Traveling across mountains and rivers, the golden lion ended up on the ocean, which could not stop the lion either. Hansen was completely speechless. He did not know where the golden lion was going, but one thing was for sure, he did not know how to go back. Even if he remembered the way back, based on what he saw on the way here, he could not go back safely alone. Hansen thought about jumping into the ocean, but the giant figures swimming on the bottom of the sea made him give up the idea. One thing was rather odd. The enormous lion could always attract tons of creatures to give their lives and become its food. After observing for a long while, Hansen discovered that it was not a coincidence. The creatures did not wish to commit suicide, but was attracted by the birds. The birds could make a sound similar to baby cries. For some reason, when creatures heard that noise, they would be attracted over like crazy and end up dead under the lion's paw. Hansen then understood that the reason why the birds could follow the golden lion was not that the lion could not kill them, but that the lion wanted them to be there. Maybe the birds were indeed like what Hansen thought, the minions of the golden lion, attracting praise for the lion and enjoying the leftover. Even the creatures in the ocean could not resist the sound of the birds. They would often come over, and when the lion needed to feed, the water nearby would become red. Although Hansen had known that God's sanctuary was almost endless, he was still shocked by what he saw on the back of the lion. Now he understood why humans could not even make a full discovery of First God's sanctuary alone. Following the lion, Hansen had benefited a lot from the leftover meat. At this point, his sacred geno points were increased to 61 and mutant geno points to 84. Hansen did not know whether he should feel sad or happy. At this rate, although he could not go back to eat the sacred blood creature he was feeding, his progress was not slow. What made Hansen felt desperate was that another 2 birds in the flock had evolved into sacred blood creatures recently. With 4 sacred blood birds following the lion, Hansen felt that he really had nowhere to go. When he was about to give up, the birds suddenly scattered and disappeared. Hansen thought they would come back, but he never saw the birds again. One day later, Hansen saw a golden island appearing on the horizon. On the island stood a golden mountain connecting the ocean and the sky. Clouds were halfway up the mountain, and snow was covering the summit. At the foot of the mountain was a sea of red flowers. The entire island was covered by the same kind of flower, except for the mountain itself. The golden and red colors together made an astonishing landscape. When Hansen had recovered from his surprise, the golden lion had stepped on the island. Hansen did not know how to describe what he felt at the time. After crossing mountains, rivers, and the ocean, it turned out that the golden lion came to the desolate island just to give birth to its offspring. The golden mountain seemed to be a volcano with a large basin on top. The golden lion was crouching inside the basin, howling. Hansen had got off the lion's back and watched the lion for 7 days. In the beginning, he thought the lion might have gotten sick from eating too many red flowers, and wanted to see if the lion was going to die. However, after crying for a week, the lion gave birth to an elephant-sized baby lion. It turned out the lion came here to give birth, so it just gave birth to its baby. End of story. Hansen sighed and prepared to leave. The golden lion was so strong that Hansen would not survive its attack even though it was weak from giving birth. As Hansen turned around, he suddenly heard a shrill scream from the lion, which suddenly spit out a large amount of golden blood. Hansen paused. There was no other creature here, so why would the lion suddenly spit out blood? Momentarily, the golden lion spit out more blood like a fountain. As Hansen was surprised, he suddenly saw a golden crystal globe with a diameter of 3 feet. The crystal was as brilliant as a diamond and seemed to have the entire galaxy sparkling inside it. Hansen gazed at it and thought, what is that? After spitting out the miraculous golden crystal, the golden lion stopped roaring and tried to separate the crystal from its blood with its paw. Because of its giant size, the lion had a hard time moving the golden crystal in front of the baby lion that it just gave birth to, which had not even opened its eyes. Roar. After doing all that, the golden lion regarded the baby lion licking the golden crystal and closed its eyes. It seemed that it had died. Han Sen was dumbstruck. He wasn't sure if the golden lion was really dead, but blood kept coming out of its mouth and the basin and became an inch-deep pool. There was no way the lion would live. The baby lion that was just born had no idea what had happened. With its eyes still closed, it was holding the golden crystal with 2 paws and licking it with its tongue. Let's do this. Han Sen was good at assassination and was very sensitive about how lively a creature was. It was obvious that the golden lion had died. The golden crystal it spit out seemed to be something quite precious. He drew the beetle knight spear and stuck it between the baby lion and the golden crystal. Using the spear as a lever, he moved the golden crystal away from the baby lion's paws. The golden crystal rolled away toward the wall. The baby lion became upset. Being just born, it could not even open its eyes or stand up, and its paws were still weak. All it could do was to sniff in the direction of the golden crystal and make puerile growling. Han Sen had flown into the air, observing the giant golden lion from afar. Seeing it remain completely still, Han Sen then felt relaxed and flew toward the golden crystal. He first knocked at it with his spear. It sounded like a stone. Han Sen reached out to touch it. It did feel cool. The lion would not do any harm to its baby. Right. Since the baby lion could lick it, there should be no problem. Han Sen glanced at the growling baby lion, which was struggling to come over, and made up his mind. He too licked at the golden crystal. As his tongue touched the golden crystal, he felt the crystal melting into liquid. Although there was not much taste, the cooling sense was refreshing. As he drank it, Han Sen felt a chill. It felt that all his spores were suddenly opened and that he had more energy than he could use. Amazing stuff indeed. Han Sen felt so energetic and overjoyed that he licked the crystal continuously. It was like sucking on an icicle. The faster he licked, the more liquid he got. Very soon, Han Sen had licked away a football-sized piece of crystal. As he was drinking the golden liquid, he almost felt reborn. Energy filled all of his cells. What is this? This is much better than Viagra. This must be the life essence of the golden lion. Han Sen was overjoyed, as he knew the golden crystal must be something amazing. The baby lion quickly struggled to get up. Han Sen pondered and tried to hold the golden crystal up, which was lighter than he had thought, just around 200 pounds. Han Sen held it up and flew to the other end of the basin. The baby lion wouldn't give up. Sniffing around, it kept crawling, persistent to get the crystal back. I did not want to kill you because you are just a baby. But since you will not give up, I will have no mercy. Han Sen made up his mind and stabbed the spear at the baby lion. Then, the spear did not even break the baby lion's skin. The spear head was even bounced back by its fur. Han Sen widened his eyes and looked at the baby lion incredulously. The spear was from the beetle knight and could be compared to any sacred blood beast's soul weapon. Yet it did not even break the fur of a baby lion. How could that be? Even if the golden lion was a strong creature, the baby was just born and already had such a strong physique. Han Sen did not manage to hurt the baby lion, but irritated it. Stimulated by the pain, the baby lion opened its eyes. Although its eyes were not completely open, a fierce look had appeared in its golden pupils. Managing to stand up, the baby lion let out a tender roar, throwing itself at Han Sen. Although it was not steady, the baby lion was rather fierce. Han Sen clenched his fists and poked at the baby lion's eye with the spear. Han Sen was using the spinning force this time, and the spear head was jabbed into the lion's eye like an electric drill. Roar. The baby lion let out a painful cry and rolled over. Han Sen became even more shocked. The spear carried all his strength and was targeted at an eye, which was the most vulnerable part of the whole body. Even so, the baby lion's eye was still intact. #T. It is impossible to hurt it. Han Sen fought the baby lion using the spear, which was like a toy in front of the baby. Although it could bring the lion pain, it could not really hurt it. Han Sen almost doubted that the spear was a fake, and changed to the diamond sword and the 3-blade harpoon. However, no matter what weapon he used, where he attacked, the golden lion would only suffer a bit pain. The golden lion, on the other hand, became more and more fierce. Gradually, it could steady itself and became stronger and faster. Although the baby lion could not threaten Han Sen yet, it would be able to very soon. Since Han Sen could not harm it, the baby lion was undefeatable. When the baby lion got tired, it would lie down and rest. When it got hungry, it would feed on the golden blood. As time went by, the baby lion grew stronger and stronger. Han Sen felt terrible. He had used everything he got, but there was no way he could kill the baby lion. Eventually, Han Sen decided to take off with the golden crystal when the baby lion was still little. It was not because he did not want to kill the baby lion, but because he has no way to do that. He had tried everything but could not even break its fur. There was little point in staying there. Han Sen flew into the sky holding the golden crystal, with the baby lion roaring and jumping underneath. Unfortunately, the baby lion was just a baby and could not perform at the same level as its parent. Although it could jump 3 feet high, there was little it could do to Han Sen. What a freak. Han Sen glanced at the baby lion, left the golden mountain, and landed on the island. There were many creatures in the ocean, so Hansen could not fly far with the golden crystal. If he happened to encounter some strong creatures, it would be a lot of trouble. On the island, there were just the dead golden lion and the baby lion, so he should be safe temporarily as long as the baby lion could not come down the mountain yet. Hansen planned to eat the golden crystal first and then leave the island. Racing against time, Hansen licked the golden crystal the first chance he got. As he drank the golden liquid until he was full, he suddenly heard a voice. Life essence of super creature golden growler consumed. 1 super geno point gained. Hansen suddenly widened his eyes, as if he were struck by a lightning bolt. He almost thought there was something wrong with his ears. As he recovered from his surprise, he quickly checked his own data. Hansen unevolved. Status none. Lifespan 200. Requirement for next evolution 100 geno points. Geno points gained 100 ordinary geno points, 100 primitive geno points, 84 mutant geno points, 61 sacred geno points, 1 super geno point. Hansen was dazed for a long while, and suddenly let out a laughter. He laughed so hard that tears came out. Super gene. Super gene. Haha. It turns out there is super gene beyond sacred gene. Sacred genes are not the end. Hansen could not begin to describe his excitement. Humans had discovered God's sanctuary for almost 2 centuries, and had been constantly growing. In the beginning, it was very difficult for humans to survive here. It was difficult for the beginners to kill even a mutant creature, let alone a sacred blood creature. However, with the development of hyper-geno arts and the evolution of more and more people, it became easier to hunt advanced creatures. In recent decades, in first God's sanctuary, there had been more and more people who evolved with every type of geno points maxed out. However, until now, no one had come up with the concept of super genes, which probably meant that no one had really killed a super creature before. Even if one had seen a super creature, it was not likely that one had the ability to kill it. Hansen had witnessed how strong the golden growler was. Even the baby golden growler was quite frightening. Hansen was already among the top of those who were in first God's sanctuary, but even he could not hurt a newborn super creature. It was easy to imagine why human had never learned the existence of super creatures and super genes. Even if the entire steel armor shelter came to attack the adult golden growler, Hansen believed the result would still be the death of every human. It was the same as when there was no one who had maxed out on sacred blood geno points or gained a sacred blood beast soul. No one could kill a sacred blood creature. When Son of Heaven killed the bloody slayer, he still had to use a sacred blood beast soul arrow. Now, human did not have super geno points or super beast soul, so it would be almost impossible to kill a super creature. That will be all for now. I hope you find this story interesting. Leave a like, subscribe, and enable notifications so you won't miss the next part of this story. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.